Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame. I am doing a review of a very brand new show. It is entitled New Amsterdam. It's on NBC. I love it so far. I'm about halfway through, so let me read this off to you. Basically, okay, let me give this disclaimer. A lot of people are not into medical drama, so if you're not into medical dramas, then just go on ahead and click off this video. I don't even want to waste your time, but to me, this is very interesting, and I love medical drama. So, anyway, inspired by the oldest public hospital in America, this unique medical drama follows the brilliant and charming Dr. Max Goodwin, the institution's newest medical director, who sets out to tear up the bureaucracy and provide exceptional care. How can he help? Well, the doctors and staff have heard this before. Not taking no for an answer, Dr. Goodwin must disrupt the status quo and prove he will stop at nothing to breathe new life into the understaffed, underfunded, and underappreciated hospital, the only one in the world capable of treating Ebola patients, prisoners from Rikers, and the President of the United States under one roof, and return it to the glory that put it on the map. So, like I said, so far I am here for this show. I really like it, and I'm almost halfway through it. So I'm just going to be stopping and going so that I can get this on my phone, because I feel like it's better instead of all the humming and hawing that I do normally when I do it on my tablet, because I don't know how to edit anything yet. So I'm trying to cut it down. I really want to keep videos like this 15 minutes or less. So anyway, on to the review. So when this came on, they showed him, the doctor, the medical director, the new medical director. They showed him jogging. I think that he lives not far at all from the hospital. And you know, most people who are in the medical field like that work in the hospital, a lot of them, especially if they're on call like that, and they work those, really long hours, a lot of the time they end up living near the hospital because it's more convenient. It would make no sense for them to live 30, 45 minutes out and even longer, even if they have all kinds of good money. That's just stupid. Because you're on call, you need to be able to get there as soon as possible. So they show him jogging, and the song that's playing in the background is James Brown. His what's that song? I Feel Good. So I was like, okay. So they keep going back and forth between him and some black boy who is obviously not from the United States. And so he looked like, I'm guessing that he was coming out of an airport. So he come outside and they start panning around him, and they show random people who are throwing up and need oxygen masks and all this other stuff. Like, everybody is like sick all around him. So I'm like, what is going on? And was he the one who made everybody sick? So I don't know at this moment what's going on. So the boy walks outside of the airport, and he tries to get a cab. He's trying to hail the cab. Nobody's trying to stop. Ain't nobody had time. So then he literally just steps out in front of the next cab that's about to pass by, and they had to slam on the brakes. So he ended up walking up to the window, and he was like, take me to the hospital. So they end up going back to the doctor, Dr. Goodwin, and he's at the hospital. He got greeted by this woman who is going to be basically showing him the places to go, the different people he needs to meet. And so he's walking with her, and at one point in time, he ends up going to this locker room. And this locker room has a handful of Spanish-speaking people in it. One guy was a janitor, and the other women were nurses. And they were speaking in Spanish and basically saying that they were saying that, oh, I bet he ain't gonna make it a year. and all this other stuff. They really were in there talking cash money, and they were laughing down. And so I was like, I bet this man can speak Spanish, right? So the woman who was basically chauffeuring him around by foot came in and was like, oh, there you are. She was like, she said something about him being the medical director, the new medical director, and how people get lost. And they all shut up. They all was looking real crazy in the face, shook. So he sat there for a minute because the whole time he was playing it cool. He just had his back to him and changing his shoes and trying to act like he didn't know nothing. Yeah, he knew Spanish. So he turned around and he said something to them about how he was going to have to hold a harassment in the workplace meeting, training, or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, Lord, y'all. You could have bought it for a penny. It was so hilarious. So anyway, they go back to the boy, right? And by this time, he's at the hospital. And he's not looking that good. And the hospital is packed out, the waiting room. So the boy ends up like shuffling, I guess you can say, over to the receptionist desk. And he was saying, I need to see a doctor. My name is whatever. I need to see a doctor. And so she was like, I got your name. I'll let you know when a doctor's available. There's no doctor available right now. So then he was just looking crazy in the face. So they went to the next scene. And the guy, the doctor, he, go over to the side and he was calling somebody. So when the person picked up the phone, we saw it was a woman. She was in a dance studio dancing, and she picked up the phone. And apparently this woman is his baby mama. I don't know if she's a girlfriend, his wife. I have no idea what she actually is at this moment. But he called to say, I'm here and I'm trying. And even though me calling you is not the type of person that you are used to me being, I'm trying. And so he said something about how he's trying his best to get back in her life, and he's sorry for leaving her and the baby. And I'm like, the baby? So then, apparently I'm thinking what has happened is he took this job, and I don't even think the job is anywhere near where she lives. And so he's basically saying that he's going to prove himself to her. So she was like, okay, well, you had 12 weeks, and she rubbed her belly like she's pregnant, like something terrible. So I was like, okay. And, he had basically got on the phone and like less than 2 minutes later had to get off because he was kind of on a schedule. And the person that was taking him everywhere he needed to go was like, well, we got to go. So anyway, that happened. And they ended up going to, if y'all have ever seen How to Get Away with Murder, they had like everybody that is of importance in that hospital in that room, like where she has her classes. What I don't know what they call. I don't know why the name of the room escapes me, but it's one of those rooms. And so all the people were in there, all the doctors, chair board members, anybody who was of importance was in that room. So he was, giving a little speech, and I neglected to mention that while he was jogging, he like did something to his throat, like something's going on with his throat. So he going through. So then like he's beginning to speak, and he, looking kind of weird, and something going on with his throat again. I'm like, okay, did you get carbon monoxide poisoning or something too? Like, what's wrong? So anyway, at this point, no one knows what's happening. No one is really understanding, him pausing every now and again and all that or whatever. So anyway, he's talking to them, and he was saying something about who are all the, I think it said thoracic, who are all the thoracic surgeons, all the heart surgeons or something like that. And a whole bunch of people raised their hands. And he basically was like, yeah, your services are no longer needed. He fired all of them. And like, people were like whispering, like, is he serious? And he was like, yep, I'm dead serious. And all the people had to get up and get out right then. It was so sad. So I think one of the main things that even drew me into wanting to watch this show was this particular scene that I just mentioned. Because a lot of these doctors, whether they're in a little practice that has nothing to do with a hospital, or a little bitty building where they deal with colds and the flu and that's it, A lot of these places, they only are about money. They will sit up there and make you feel like you have cancer and all this other stuff, but they just want to sit up there and do anything they can to cut on you, open you up. They would do anything, halfway kill you or kill you, just to be able to get as much money out of you as they can. So I'm actually excited to see where the show is going to go, because that's basically where it seems like he has a really big issue with people doing that. And he that's why he told those people to go, because they're sitting up there. Like, a lot of people don't understand, even though this man is brand new, his first day at this place, at this hospital, he did his research to the point of where he knew the numbers, he knew these people's names and the different operations that they performed, the percentage, like, I mean, literally, like, down to the percentages. So he was like, doggone, they got all these percentages of all these things. And then I'm pretty sure he read the case files of these patients and realized they didn't need any of these surgeries. So you sitting up here making these people go into debt for something that they didn't even need. So anyway, he's very hot about that. So then, like, the next group of people, he asked them to raise their hand. And I think it was like the chair members. And so he was like, for y'all, I think we need to hire 50 attendings to help y'all, because it's too much stuff going on and y'all need to be more hands-on and all this other stuff. Like, it apparently, and I thought that was going to be a good thing. I don't know the terminology, but almost everybody who raised their hand, they got up, walked out, got on their phone, instantly was like, yeah, I'm tired of my spirit. I was like, what just happened? What did I miss? Like, oh my gosh, it was so crazy, y'all. So basically he was like, look, I just want to be able to do what we need to do for the patients, and we don't need to be sitting up here scamming the patients and all that. Like, he ain't here for that at all. He really is one of those people who wants to be hands-on with everything. And ended up going to another scene where one of the people that was in there, I guess the symposium, I'm trying to think of what the name of the room is called, y'all. And this girl came up to one of the little random receptionist desks and requested a specific doctor. And so apparently she has some issues. And the man came out of nowhere and was like, I got her. And so she has issues. And she's like 2 years underage. In 2 years, she'll phase out of being able to do anything. And apparently she has nowhere to go. And he was telling one of his colleagues that he is going to admit her, basically, because she has nowhere to go. And she was like, well, for how long? He was like, for 2 years, until she turns 18. She was like, you gonna admit her for 2 years because she has nowhere to go? Like, y'all, I gotta see more of this, because of the field that I went into, some of this stuff kind of goes hand in hand. And even though I'm not in that field at the current actual moment, it kind of tugs on my heartstrings, and stuff like that upsets me when people are in certain situations. Y'all, I don't want to get into that right now because I'm gonna get upset a little bit. So yeah, they ended up going to another scene where there was, I don't even think I said anything about it. So one of the first scenes that came on in the hospital was a guy. He had this woman and he was wheeling her body down the hall. And so this other woman, one of his colleagues, came over and was trying to kind of, like, I guess, examine her. And he was like, oh, she's dead. And so for some reason, she just kept doing it. He was like, man, I'm telling you, she's dead. And so he was looking like, yeah, apparently you didn't do it right or some shit. At first she said, well, she kept checking for some reason. And she was like, well, I'm glad you didn't kill her the second time or something like that. So the woman is alive. So this connects to this next part that happened. I'd actually forgotten about that part, and then this next part came on like almost 15 minutes after that. And so they had Dr. Goodwin, the medical director. I don't know why I can't just think of director. The medical director. He was in the room with the woman and her husband, I guess he is, and another doctor who actually had the patient and all this other stuff, and his nurse that's on his service for the day. And so, like I said, old dude wants to be hands-on. So he was like, keep me up to date on what's going on with this. So he went on to go somewhere else. So the random doctor, he over here trying to explain to the husband what's going on with the wife. And so he basically said that her brain somehow sent a message to her heart to make her think that she's dead, even though she's not. So he said to him that we need to have a conversation so that we can discuss y'all's lifestyle and how y'all met and what y'all do on a daily basis. And so the man was like, but why? What does that have to do with anything? And he was like, everything. And I was just like, okay. Oh, Lord. So I'm about to get back to it. I'll be back. Y'all, so the boy that I keep talking about is from Liberia, right? And the FBI and some other organization came to the hospital because part of protocol is if you suspect somebody has Ebola or certain viruses and all that good stuff, you have to let CDC know. So apparently, so far from what they're saying right now, they're trying to say that this boy was given Ebola and was supposed to be sent to New York, I think, sent wherever they are, and be the one to have this in order to spread it. So right now I'm watching to see what he's gonna say, but yeah, y'all, the most is going on. Okay, so the boy with Ebola, or so they think, because right now they're just going off of the symptoms, but they don't have any concrete evidence right now. They're waiting on test results to come back. But the doctor ended up talking to him and trying to get a story out of him and the FBI agent. And they were asking him, why did he come there? But what was supposed to happen was he was supposed to get injected with Ebola. He was supposed to go to Times Square and I guess just be there and infect everybody. But from his story, he was saying that he met some guy that was selling dashikis and all this stuff somewhere in some square. And they promised that he was going to allow him to be able to sell stuff. And that he had to give him like 10% of what he makes or something like that. So that was the only reason why he came there. So the doctor was like, well, what made you come to this hospital? And so he was like, this is the only hospital I've ever heard of in America. So the doctor, because they have him incubated in like this quarantine type of situation, he went over to this little box and he turned it off so the boy couldn't hear him, and was like, told the FBI agent that he's not a terrorist. And so they was like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. He was like, I'm trying to tell you he's not a terrorist. If he was a terrorist, why didn't he just go to Times Square where he was supposed to do all this stuff? So he was like, well, at least check the boy's story out so we can see what's going on. So another thing I forgot to mention was during all that earlier when the doctor ended up telling those people to leave, like they fired, he went and found this one black guy who worked on that same board of doctors. And he asked him he asked him, do you like performing surgeries? He was like, I love surgeries. So he was like, well, why have you barely done it? And he was like, because the patients didn't need it. So basically he found this dude, stopped him before he packed all his stuff up and left from being fired, rehired him, and told him that he was going to be the head over a whole nother department. I was just like, you just said it all. I made sure to let y'all know he was black. So one of the people who raised their hand from the second thing, that was somebody he's been screwing, or somebody that thought that they were closer than what they really are, right? So the show is progressing, and apparently she tried to roll up on him and was like, you want to meet up later and all this other stuff. And so he kind of started brushing her off and tried to make it seem like he ain't got time. And then she was like, I'm a big girl, I can handle it. Tell me why you don't want to, hang out or whatever. And so he was like, because you're not black. And then he walked off. So I'm on the scene now where she is going after him, trying to figure out, what does that even mean? And why are you saying that? And if you feel the way you feel about me, and I feel the way I feel about you, why you have a problem? Like, why is this an issue? So I'll be back. Y'all, so he explained to her why he doesn't want to date her. He said his whole life he always had a plan. His plan was to do what he's doing now, become a doctor, do all that. His family, he's going to get with a black woman and have black kids. So she was like, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. And so he was like, you don't understand. My parents, my mama and my sister, they used to get so mad when they would see these athletes get up, get money, and make it big, and they all go get a white woman. And I'm not trying to do that. And she was like, I still don't understand. So he was like, I love black women. And she was like, I love black women too. But I don't see any of them out here trying to offer you a drink, trying to go out and treat you to a drink. Y'all, I'm just so it is so touchy already. I don't know how I feel. It's crazy. It's kind of like the whole Molly situation. If you watch Insecure, it's how she feels. She always feel like I got to get with a black guy. This is not making sense for me to deal with this Asian or whatever the guy is. Anyway, I'll be back. Y'all, so I'm tired. So the boy who has Ebola, apparently he kind of went into shock and kind of started halfway season. He started throwing up blood, right? So you have to suit up before you come in contact with him as an extra layer, even though it's not airborne. So the one person that was actually nearby, she was trying to suit up and was trying to get help. Nobody was around. So she suited up best she could, and instead of putting on the whole big full mask and stuff, she just put on one of those ones you put on there like this, and ran in there, had her gloves on. So the doctor, the guy who just came, Dr. Goodwin, he came and he got fully suited up, and he was trying to talk her through everything. He said that the boy needed adrenaline. His heart was beating too slow, so he needed adrenaline and all this other stuff, along with other things. And so she was able to resuscitate him because he couldn't breathe, and she tried to get him to get the mask, and he ended up reaching for the mask and fell out the bed. Lord. So anyway, y'all, it turned out to not be Ebola. The people who gave him the shot thought it was Ebola, but it was something else that could have been treated with antivirals. So they ended up giving it to him. But in the meantime, before all this happened, the woman who went in there and saved his life, she was so busy doing everything that she was doing that she ended up cutting her glove open, and she got exposed. So nobody knew if it was Ebola or not. So she had to stay in there and all that stuff. So like I said, they found out what it was. So she was okay. The man, they just said that it's his wife. So his wife is pregnant. So he was on the phone in the middle of this crisis while all this stuff was happening with the boy with Ebola. His wife called him and was like, something's wrong with the baby. And they showed her she was in some blood on the bed. So they ended up rushing an ambulance over to her house. They got her and brought her in. The baby was in distress, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. Then they were trying to find a pulse for the baby. They couldn't find nothing at first, and then they found it. So like she already said, the baby would be 12 weeks early. So I'm thinking that they were trying to save the baby from having to be taken. And so far, so good right now. Apparently that hospital is the same hospital that his sister died in. And he's in his feelings. And there was this woman who actually is a doctor, and she likes to go and do these speeches, inspirational messages and stuff, instead of actually working. And so he'd been reading her the whole time and was like, well, if you're not back here within 48 hours, don't even bother coming back. So she ended up popping up. So apparently word spread about how people are excited to be doctors again. And so she was like, I want to be a part of that. And that's the reason why I came back. And I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else. Oh, the same woman that the glove got her hand got exposed to the blood that came out. She's the one who was having sex or whatever you want to say with the black guy who is kind of like, nah, I don't want to deal with you seriously because I need to be the black person. So after everything was over, he gonna ask her out for drinks. And so she was like, seriously? So I don't know where this is gonna go, but maybe he gonna get his life together and not worry about all that, because if somebody make you happy and y'all living y'all best life, do what you do and don't worry about what everybody else got to say. Things change. I had all kinds of plans, and my plans, almost none of my plans came to fruition. So anyway, that was my review on New Amsterdam. I really, really, really have enjoyed it, and I hope it's just as juicy. All the next episodes are just as juicy as this one. All right, y'all have a good evening. Bye.